Right. Cool, that works. So we're playing jungle. What, Amumu against? Oh yeah, against Braum. So this is like the troll game. Okay. So as jungle, it's especially important to assess lanes before we go into the game. So we'll talk a little bit about the matchups and stuff. So Kale into Gangplank. Kale will outscale eventually, but early Gangplank with Grasp, obviously he's going to be lane bullying pretty hard. This means like one of two things from like minute zero. So either this means that Gangplank is going to be really shoved up because he's going to have priority in the lane because he is bullying the Kale, and so therefore you can actually look for a play there if he's low and overextended. So like generally you would say if he's overextended, but if he's high HP, then he's not really overextended to push in. It's sort of Kale's job if she wants you there, needs you there, to poke that down a little bit to give you a little something. Because like Gangplank can just W your stun on a gank and then just walk away if he's not, if he's not in lethal and stuff, and then if you can't chase him down the lane and actually get any damage off on him, if he has like a smart barrel or something. So either this means that he is gankable or he's not gankable. I know that sounds kind of weird to say. But yeah, you just have to assess the HP value before going top, essentially. And if he's like high of HP, then we're not even really going to even think about going top ever. Uh, Braum in the jungle, I have no idea what the matchup is between Amumu to Braum. I don't know. So I'm not going to talk about that. I would assume that Amumu just does everything better. That's kind of the impression I would get. Amumu just does everything better. Lux versus Vel'Koz is pretty much just a farm matchup. I don't see either one having kill pressure on the other if they're playing well. And then Zaya Rakan is obviously a very big bully into Jinx Chana. So while we assess that, like, maybe in the top lane, there's probably not going to be too many plays unless Gangplank is like really overextending without resources. This is a lane that actually can get stuff done. You expect Zaya Rakan to kind of be able to bully this lane out because that's what Zaya Rakan is. And Jinx Jana kind of just wants to scale into the mid game. So I would kind of expect Zaya Rakan to shove in early, and so you can look for opportunities there. And then potentially mid. But I wouldn't really be playing towards the top side of the map unless we see within like the first 3 minutes of the game that this gangplank is really like something else. Okay. Move this slightly up. Okay, I like this. Communicate to your team what you're doing.
Welcome to Summoner's Rift.
Where are we going?
I think you are going to end up starting blue buff here.
30 seconds until minions spawn.
I think you're probably just here to get a ward. Yeah. There you go. Okay, cool. So we're looking for full clear
Minions
into
have
top,
spawned.
and so this kind of plays back into what I was saying about the gangplank thing. I would not bother like looking top instead of instead of taking a full clear. Like since you already know that you want a full clear, Mumu's kind of like a 6 jungler. And so if that's the way that it is, then you know you're not really gonna look for gangplank. even if he's kind of shoved up, unless it's like absolutely guaranteed. This is good kiting. Don't level up your abilities with the mouse. Use the keyboard. Control E. This is all good. Pretty standard. So, one thing I'm noticing that you could do to be a little bit more efficient. So, we come in and we hit the camp, and then you move a little bit into it just to make sure you're getting your E damage, I think is what's going on. But then once those two die, so like at this moment, you can start kind of like pathing upwards. Like you always want to be clearing towards your next location. And so when you just stand here and continue to chunk it out for the rest of the 200 HP or whatever it has, you know, I just feel like that's a little bit of a waste of time. You can actually pretty much drag the wolf before it resets to like right here-ish. Sometimes you can get it like a little bit closer. So I'm not saying that you should always drag it like into this arc. You know, I'm just saying because what it depends on the HP value ultimately, right? Like it's only got 200 health and it's going to continue to take damage from your W and stuff. So I'm not saying that you drag it here and then kill it. All I'm saying is that you can be pathing towards this area and know that the wolf is not going to reset. You're definitely going to get the kill. And so you'll probably end up killing it like somewhere around right here just because it doesn't have a ton of HP. And then you'll just be that much closer to your next camp. So let's see like what this, I'm going to leave this mark here. So let's see how long it takes you to hit this mark. 2, 3, 4, 5. So about 5 seconds. Just, it's basically 5 wasted seconds. I know that the mark kind of moved with the screen, which is a little bit unfortunate, but it was pretty much like right here. So when you headbutt the wolf, and then it took you about 5 seconds to kill the wolf and then get to this mark. Whereas you could have been killing the wolf and getting to this mark so that it would have died right at about there, which would have saved you 5 seconds as you continue to path towards raptors. Same thing with raptors. I was holding my hand like on the space key because I knew it was going to come up here as well. It takes like 3 E's, right? The third E killed the raptors. So when your third E is close to coming up, you can start stepping back because you know that the raptors are going to chase you. And then you would be able to get the last auto on this raptor probably around like right here. Now in this case, obviously this is not like that big of a distance that we're talking about. Maybe this is like 2 seconds. You could drag that red a little bit more into the brush. So with where you are, you're not getting a ton of vision right here. You know, that's basically your vision line. You can actually drag this red buff like deeper into the brush and stand like right here. And then you'll be able to pretty much see like all of this, you know. Maybe not quite down that low, but you probably get like here to here. So it's not quite as scary. I kind of respect the sweeper coming out because you're thinking that the only way that Braum jungle can be viable is if there's some sort of cheese. So even though normally I would say it's bad to ward and then sweep the same camp, I understand why you're doing it. Fine with looking for Scuttle here. We're looking at top lane. We're seeing that Gangplank is not gankable. I hope that's what we're seeing.
Let's find some friends.
And, okay. So we saw Braum. I'm not sure. I mean, this is your screen, so you were looking at this, and so you see him right here. And so you can make a couple snap decisions right now. Number one, you already looked at top lane and know that Gangplank is going to get the shove into river before Kale. And Kale can't really rotate. It's going to take like forever to clear that minion wave under the tower. You know, Braum has about like 300 HP right now. So in case you don't know, each tick on the health bar is 100 health. So he's got about 3 ticks on the health bar, right? So he's got 300 HP. We know that we could deal 300 HP over time, but it's probably not going to come out immediately. And so the question becomes, can we actually kill Braum before Gangplank gets to us? And then, is it worth trading a kill with Braum? And then essentially like giving, like handshaking that Gangplank will get double buffs. And so that's not worth it. So this is a losing line here. The second thing that we can do is look at what's happening in mid, because you did pan your camera top as you were walking through Tribrush, but you didn't look at mid lane. So we don't know what the state of this wave is. And we can't really tell judging by their position. I can assume that, like, judging by where they're standing, I would think that the minions are locked in mid, but you can see that you have a minion wave behind this tower, so this isn't actually the case. I don't think that these minions are actually just locked dead center of the lane. So if something was happening where Lux had actually cleared the wave, and this is a hypothetical, but we didn't pan the camera, so we don't know. If Lux had actually cleared the wave and Vel'Koz is walking up and trying to harass her instead of clearing the minion wave or something, then she has a free ticket into river, which means that you have a way out if you do decide to go for this kill on the Braum, if you can get it. But I think that you're thinking like, okay, you're low, you don't have any refillable, we don't know what the combat capability of Braum is. We know that he does have Aftershock, and so yours is more consistent. Like, you could actually, if you were going to fight this, if you were going to, this is what you would do. You continue to path down here, and then immediately, like, hook into this wall. Like, just straight down, and then you would sit, like, right here. So that when he, like, turns the corner... I'm going to clear some of these lines out of here. Alright. So that when he clears the corner here, he has to step around this, and then you have, like, a point-blank Q onto him. This right here would be your Q, which procs Aftershock, which pretty much guarantees that you're not going to die before he can proc his Aftershock. And so from there, it's all just a question of, like, how much damage does Amumu actually deal, and that's more of a mathematical question than anything. And then if Lux, like, did have the wave shoved and she can kind of escort you out, then after you get this kill, probably around, like, right here, you're going to walk back around, not bother taking the scuttle, and then just get escorted out of top river by Lux, because Kale is not going to be your escort. So these are things that, like, should be going through your mind in this half a second that we see Braum. Especially after he misses Q. Man, I would love to hook. And this ward, actually, maybe he was actually anticipating you hooking into the wall, like I was saying, because this ward actually is the defense against that. And so you sit in the brush. I think that you're waiting to see if he's going to auto the crab. Okay, he does auto the crab. We're not panning our camera mid, though.
Come back.
Like, Lux is going to help us out here. Vel'Koz end up stealing that? Looks like it. This is another thing. We could have gotten the kill here. So, Lux binds actually the Vel'Koz here. And so your initial impression is to click away, which is okay, because I think that you were trying to orb walk the crab. But this is our next click right here. And then what's the next click? And then you start going after the Braum, which is weird because we know that Vel'Koz was CC'd, like right here, right? Maybe he's in the brush, I don't exactly remember, but he's like somewhere in this vicinity, right? And he's binded, and Lux bind lasts for 2 seconds at rank 1, I'm pretty sure. So even if we back click and we get to this spot, we're still definitely in Q range to hit this. And we have red buff. So we know that if we do Q onto the Vel'Koz, at bare minimum, forces flash. maximum, we can get a kill out of it. And Brahm's not really going to do anything. Like, if you queue onto the Lux here, Braum doesn't really have a way of entering this fight at this point. Like, the best he can do is sort of walk around here. Because if he just walks in a straight line at you and the Vel'Koz just does end up flashing, like this way or something, and Braum is stuck like right here, then this is just end, because you and Lux are gonna kill him. You two would assumably be like somewhere like right here. Lux bind would come off cooldown. Your Q would come off cooldown, and if Braum's right here, then his only option at that point is to flash the wall. And that's a flash that a lot of people actually fail, so he has a chance of dying even though it's the correct play. So Braum can't really take this angle, so Braum just kind of has to go around here.
Come forward.
Just recall. Like, initially you said you wanted to get a full clear, but your camps are going to be coming up. Or alternatively, what you could do is, it looks like right now, so we don't pan our camera mid a single time, but it looks like right now what we have is their wave under the tower. Just trying to guess based off of the mini map. So there's not anything like coming in, and so Vel'Koz doesn't have a reason to like walk forward, especially when you're in the vicinity with red buff. And so what you could do after the Q fails over here, what you could do is actually just path through mid lane directly into bottom scuttle. And then once you take that scuttle, you could actually probably look for raptors afterwards. I would assume this is just like elementary jungling. I don't assume that Braum can actually clear a raptor camp early, So they're definitely up. I don't know what camps he has. He was able to match you on the side of the map with devil buffs at about the same time that you got there and at your level. So what I'm going to assume is that Braum would be a single target jungler and that he took red, blue, and Gromp. But we also don't really get any information on him either by pressing tab or anything, so we can't exactly count his CS. I don't know if those 3 camps give you 3. But, again, we don't know. Maybe he did wolves too, but I highly doubt he did raptors. So he could have crossed over, did this, recalled, and then just come back directly into your rubber bandit camp and clear this on your second clear, not your first clear. Because this is just such a waste of time. $349 is where you can immediately just go ahead and walk through mid after you fail. So even though the decision to queue onto Braum is bad, you should have queued onto Vel'Koz, but even just ignoring that, right? We can path through mid and begin. We'll get to scuttle in about probably 10 seconds. Let's just say 10 seconds. We're really unlucky and it's walking away as soon as we get to it, and so it's hard for us to actually auto the scuttle. So it would take 10 seconds to get there. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So right now you would be hitting the scuttle crab. Let's say it probably takes you maybe 7 or 8 seconds to clear it. I wouldn't exactly know, but you have your Q, you have red buff, so you're going to shred some of its armor. You have percent max health. I would assume that you can kill it in about 7 seconds. Okay. This is the point where you would have killed the scuttle crab. At this point, again, let's just say that we're super unlucky for some reason, and the crab was all the way at the bottom of the river when we killed it, and so we had to walk all the way to raptors. That would probably be about 6 seconds. Okay. You would have gotten to his raptor camp right now. And then from there, let's say that it takes you I don't know, another like 8 seconds to clear it. Okay, Raptor camp is cleared, and then from there you would have just went from Raptors, and you could have recalled behind us red, which is really greedy, but I don't think that Braum is going to punish you in any way, or if anything, you walk back to Pixel. So let's say it takes you 5 seconds to walk away, and another 8 seconds to recall. Well, we won't even take recall into account yet, so we'll just say it takes you 5 seconds to walk away. Okay, you start at your recall at this point. Right? So it's at about the exact same time. So the amount of time that it took you to go and clear this one single camp, you could have gotten 2 camps instead. Not only was it 2 camps, but it's almost like counter jungling both camps. Like, because like taking the crab, you take it from Braum, you know? Like, Braum can't get it
Okay.
that way, and Braum's not really looking to take your camp, so it's sort of like something that you deny from him. Braum is bottom. At this point, I would not be pathing into my bottom side. As soon as I see him, I'm probably going for Raptors and his top side jungle. Because like where he was on the map, so I'm pausing this a lot, which is kind of like messing with my perception of time here, but let's just see like when we saw him originally. It's like right here, right?
Let's find some friends.
Okay. So we initially see him at like 320 and he's in his top side. And now there's this whole play. Okay. It's now like 4:45 right now. So it's been about a minute and a half. So I think the jungle camps take like 2 minutes, right, to respawn, or is it 2.5? I think it's 2.5. But in any case, so let's just let the seconds play for a couple seconds here, because we're going to assume that you don't have like perfect reaction time. Okay, so at this point it's been like exactly 1 minute 30 because we saw him at 320 and it's now 450. So it's been exactly 1 minute 30, and you know that his camps were cleared like at least a couple seconds before you saw him, right? Because you didn't see him on Grump. You saw him in River, or you saw him like next to River, right? So you know that it took like a couple seconds for him to walk from Grump to River. So like time is sort of on your side here. So if you just go and you path directly here, you eat these Raptors, and then you just move into his top side. Like I kind of said, like Braum is what I assumed to be a single target jungler, and so maybe there was like something really fucking odd where he managed to get the Raptors on his first clear, but I really don't think so. And so what happens when you move into his top side is that you're actually going to be able to eat the Rubber Bandit Grump, and you'll maybe potentially be able to eat Rubber Bandit Wolves. Just at this moment in time, we don't know what Braum is doing, so we're not going to get an idea on his recall timer, but we can already know that we're going to get Grump, like 100% out of this. We get Grump. And it doesn't even matter that top lane doesn't have priority because nobody is going to expect this invade, even though it's really smart and people should. So what you end up doing, again, from Braum, so number one, like I think that we took Scuttle from him, and I think that we had a way to take Raptors from him as well, especially if he ended up going for this gank on bottom. I really think that that means that he didn't take the bottom Scuttle. However, I also think that he would have been dissuaded from taking this gank if we took the Scuttle in the first place, so there's that. Anyways, regardless of like the Scuttle conversation, I think that we still, like, no matter what, would have gotten Raptors because Lux did get the solo kill in mid as we were walking away from the situation. So there still wouldn't have been mid priority, and we would have been able to invade Raptors. Then we would have recalled, discounting the bot Scuttle. Like if you didn't want to fight over it, you would have recalled. Raptors still would have been up. He might have still went for this gank, which means that you still could have come into topside jungle, and then you would have taken one of his only camps that he actually cleared, that Rubber Banded. So at this point, whenever you do this, like what you tell Braum is that, well, if Braum is going to recall directly after this gank, what can he really do? You know, because blue's not up. Let's clear this. Blue's not up. Okay. Um, we took ground. Depending on how long he stays, we took wolves. And we already cleared raptors, which means that it's respawned at a higher level. So how does Braum clear that camp? If he tries for it, he probably loses all of his HP, unless he gets like a ton of gold on this gank for some reason, and he's able to afford like a maybe like a cloth armor and a Bammy or something. But I don't see that happening. We also don't know what he started. Did he start Talisman or Machete? Because that would affect how healthy he can clear raptors. So he can't really clear this camp. If he does, he pretty much just has to insta recall afterwards. This is not up, right? So his only other option is to go to his level 1 Krugs. Meanwhile, our level 1 Krugs are still up, and so at this point we can just handshake that we don't actually want to clear Krugs, and neither does he. So after we clear his top side, we can actually again just look at top and see is this gankable or not, and then we can just recall directly into our bottom side, because Braum's only counterplay off of Fountain is to path directly, like following this gank after he recalls, his only counterplay is to path directly into your bottom side. Because he should anticipate that when he shows bottom here that you're going to invade his top jungle, and so whenever he respawns, he knows that he doesn't want this camp, and so his only play is to directly invade your bottom side because it has the camps that he can clear easily. He's a single target jungler, so he wants to clear these camps, right? He doesn't want to worry about chickens. So after we clear his top side, we just recall, and then we meet him on your side here, and then depending on wave states and all of that stuff, we already did assess that Xayah Rakan was probably going to shove in early, right? Which means that our bot lane is actually in closer proximity and more able to rotate to this if Braum wants to actually stay and contest our camp. So he can't do that. And so at that point, we've gotten 1, 2, 3 camps over him, 4, 5 camps, because he would have had to invade our bottom side to make up anything. Otherwise, there's nothing on the map for him to do. So we have a 5 camp advantage. And it would be like 6 minutes into the game with a 24 CS differential. GG at that point. And then, like, depending on how we want to play out the lane at that point, we can just permanently go for this and vertical jungle in the top side, because we know that Braum is never going to be able to actually do dragon. Especially when we have, like, a Lux. Lux is a very good champion for scouting objectives because her ult is relatively low cooldown and grants vision, and then her E grants vision as well. So Lux can actually kind of like duck out of vision into Pixel and then just throw E near Dragon and see if they're even doing it. At which point, like, bot lane can just rotate and threaten, and so they can't actually take Dragon. And so we know that because they can't actually take Dragon, there's nothing for Braum to do down here. So we can force them into a vertical scenario and then apply extreme pressure to Gangplank, or instead of doing this, we can actually give him the next time these camps come up, so that'll be the third spawn of those camps in the top. And so after that, since we're already so far ahead of Braum, like, Braum would still be level 3 at this point because he hasn't gotten any camps. These camps are probably respawning at like 6 or something like that, which means that they're starting to really hurt. I think that he would actually struggle to clear Grump. And Wolves is like something that if he cleared it, he wouldn't be healthy enough to gank at that point, because the camps have like a 2 level lead over him, or maybe 3, depending on like how the math works out. I think they can only level up twice at a time, so maybe it would only be a 2 level lead over him. So then at that point, like, we could give Braum his 3rd rubber bandit camps in here, and then we could look to make a play on his red buff. Clear out some of these lines. So we could look to make a play on his red buff as it's spawning, and then say, like, you can have these top camps, but you're going to lose a red buff for it. Or you can have those top camps, but we're going to go bottom, and so we're going to have pressure here because of it. And then because I'm playing Amumu, I can actually take the dragon after I gank bottom, if it goes well for us. So we have options on how to play out the game at this point, and it's completely dependent on, like, what you want to do. Do you want to focus the objective? Do you want to focus the laners? Do you want to have like a winning lane that you snowball, you know? But in any case, we've already like written Braum out of the game. Braum has no agency, and he can only get what we give him. And this is something that would have occurred by the 6-minute mark. And it's done. The game is over. So because the game would have actually been over at 6 minutes, I kind of don't even really want to watch the rest of this because I already know how we would have won the game. But I'll watch this for a little bit longer just to see if there's another scenario where we could have checkmated Braum. Your path is super inefficient here. So you recall. So you did originally, right? Your first. Sorry, your first clear. You did this camp, number 1. That's bad. All right, you did this camp number 1. You did this number 2, and you did this number 3. Right? In terms of like respawning order. That's the way that they're going to respawn. So why did you come off of Fountain and path directly to 2? It doesn't make any sense. You should have, like, if you're going to do this, if you set up like a path or something like this, because now that you've kind of like reversed the order of these bottom camps, what ends up happening is now you have 1, 2, which means that your only gankable lane after Gromp is going to be into bottom, which is fine because, like we said, that we can probably look for opportunities bottom because bot lane will probably be overextended because they have a winning lane naturally. However, what you're not taking into account is that mid could be gankable, and mid did get a solo kill early, and if we played out that initial river skirmish the way that we should have, then Vel'Koz probably would have burned flash during it, and it's only 5 minutes into the game, and that whole river skirmish took place at like 4 minutes, right? So Vel'Koz still doesn't have flash for another 4 minutes, give or take, right? Like we didn't time anything. I don't think that he ended up flashing whenever Lux killed him. I don't know. But if he did flash in the river skirmish, like if we played it correctly, then we would have timed it and we would have known, okay, this guy doesn't have flash for like another 4 minutes. So why are we committing to a path which forces us to gank bottom? It doesn't make any sense. Mid is a winning lane. We could have just come back, walked down here, cleared Gromp, and then moved up towards Wolves. And then while we're in the proximity of Wolves, we can look for like a couple options. So when we're right here, we can look to go down, establish river control, and then move into bottom. Or we can move down, establish river control, move into mid. Or we can move into our third camp because that's the way that we sequenced during our first clear, so it makes sense to go back here. And then we can look to go into Krugs, which should have still been level 1. In any case, by the time you get there, they probably will have respawned. I'm not exactly sure. Or you could look to move into river, go into top, or river into mid. So you have a couple like options with what you're doing if you sequence this correctly. But if you sequence this incorrectly, then you only have the one option. And the one option is this. So if this is not something that's available to you, like if you clear up here, and then you clear this, and then you like look down, but the enemy just shoves the wave into the tower and then just recalls, then what are you going to do? Like, I don't know how much CS bot lane has. You don't press tab enough. So you should be pressing tab more. Tab is very, very important. It allows you to see like early CS counts and stuff. And then from there, you can actually start to be aware of like, I don't know if you ever put this much thought into. I know that you kind of like off roll as an ADC. And so I don't know if you ever really exactly memorized how much CS you need to get like certain good backs for an ADC, like a BF sword or a pickaxe. Some ADCs want tier first back, so I don't know if you ever memorized the CS counts for these items, but if you did and you're pressing tab and stuff, you can kind of make an accurate prediction as to what the enemy ADC is thinking right now. Because it's Xayah, so I think that Xayah, like first back, in my opinion, Xayah is probably looking for like BF sword, which means that she's going to be extended into lane for a minute, but it's already 5.5 minutes into the game, so she might have enough CS, and she might just be trying to crash the wave and then recall. In which case, this whole sequencing thing, you just fucked your jungle for the rest of the game for no reason. You have to wait the 2.5 minutes for them to respawn to fix it. I like that we're looking here. Amumu's really easy in that we don't really need to pay attention to what we're doing in the jungle. We clear and we're kind of healthy. Don't like that thought. Yeah, the lane gank is really awkward. Pinging off the gank. We don't know if they have vision. Seems like they don't have vision by how they're playing. Okay. We hit the Q. Okay, so what do we see here, and what do we think that we can get out of it? So again, we still haven't pressed tab, so I don't exactly know what we're looking at, but like I can see 34 CS and a kill right here. So she has gold to base, and we just pop some HP. I don't know what Jinx is. I don't remember if she was the one that died early or what. So I don't know what Jinx is thinking at this moment in time, but what we could do is we could look to shove out the wave with our laner. So you're not trying to actually take the CS, you're not trying to tax the lane, but you are going to get some XP out of this, which is totally okay to do, by the way. Specifically, like, this gank is totally fine because you know that Braum can't really go in and take chickens. Like, because he's just such a bad jungler. But if you were playing against a Graves or something like that, you would expect your top side to be gone at this point in time. Or you would expect him to be, like, pathing over there. And so the only way that you can really answer this is with Dragon. And so the way to get Dragon is to unlock your bot lane. So the way to do this is to kind of just stay and auto the minions here. Not to take them, but just to get them low so that Jinx can kill them easily. She's going to, like, Jinx wants to go back and get this cannon right now. And so you want to prep these minions so that she only takes one auto to kill this one auto to kill this one by the time she's done killing cannon. Then there's a whole nother wave here. So what you're going to do is you're actually kind of going to, like, walk up forward, kind of like sit here for a second or two, you know, just to let the minions group up on you, and then you'll retreat a little bit, maybe to, like, right here. And then that way the wave will be, like, perfectly held in this pocket, like the way that the minions group up and cluster, that sort of stuff. So then from there, you can sort of just, if we acknowledge that this is the wave, they kind of sit between these two lines or whatever, right on the lines, then you can just walk, like, in between them, E, auto, all that stuff, so that Jinx can maybe clear it with 2 rockets or something like that. And then from there, you move his 3 into river, where you can take dragon, because you've just crashed like a wave and a half into their tower. So you know that Xayah wanted to base off of this anyways, so Rakan's going to take the free base as well. There's nothing for him to do in the lane. And so whenever they return to the lane, part of this wave will actually still be dying under tower because Cannon's very, very healthy, right? So it's going to tank a lot of shots. So immediately when they get back into the lane, they can't actually just rush to dragon. Like, Rakan might rush and place, like, a ward over here, especially if Graves is invading your top side. Like, in the hypothetical that it was a Graves. Since it's Braum, like, this point actually doesn't matter at all. But if you were playing against somebody who could counter jungle you, then Rakan might actually run forward and place a ward over the dragon to make sure that you guys are there, which clears his jungler to invade here. Because otherwise you probably would have just ducked out of vision and then recalled. And so it's actually kind of, like, unsafe for somebody to invade your jungle because you would be resetting into top side. Anyways, Rakan might place the ward on the dragon, but that doesn't matter at all because we acknowledge that there's nothing that this team can actually do. Bottom lane can't just run past the wave and run straight at dragon, and they're not going to. It's only the first dragon, and it's Cloud, which a lot of people consider to be kind of like the worst one in the game. I think it's okay if you only get, like, one on certain champions, like Gangplank really likes it, you know? I guess Xayah kind of likes it as well, but I just don't think that they're going to sacrifice a wave under the tower to try to harass you on this. And Rakan's not really going to steal it, and Braum's not really going to steal it either. And you have Janna to keep you a little bit healthy with the shields and stuff. Plus, you'll have Talisman and Infinite Mana, you know? So I think that it's totally okay to help your ADC shove the wave, and then what that actually does is you get to split some XP, which is really nice for you because it's going to be a while before you can get back into your jungle because you have to do dragon. Pretty much, you have to do dragon. like we're assuming that this is a real game and you're not playing against Braum jungle. So you pretty much have to do dragon. So this XP is going to still help you on your mission to get to level 6 as fast as possible. But we can also secure a dragon for our team. And then at the same point, because we didn't tax the minions, it also allows Jinx to get an optimal amount of CS as well. Instead, we don't help our bot lane shove, and so they're not really going to be able to come to dragon. And so we realize that, and now we just start walking towards our chickens. Like, what is this, man? We hit the plant, and then we just go for chickens. This is so bad. This wastes so much time. So, right here, the gank is over. Okay, at 6 minutes, exactly 6 minutes, the gank is over. Because they've gotten away. Okay, if you already know that you're not going to take dragon, like you've already pretty much planned out, like, okay, I'm not going to help them shove the wave or anything like that. Just duck into this brush and recall right now. Like this brush is a little bit greedy because they could step up and like Rakan could do some cheeky thing like Q onto you and then like just use E to go back. Like Xayah starts the back and so Rakan can stop your back and then E backwards onto the Xayah and take her back. So you can't exactly use this brush, but this brush. And then if it's warded and those minions aggro you, then you just retreat back to this brush and recall. So let's say worst case scenario. Worst case scenario is you take this brush because we just talked about why you can't take this brush. So we know this. Okay? So worst case scenario, we walk into this brush. We get, let's say, it takes 2 seconds, and then we get 3 seconds into the recall, and then one of the minions aggros and hits us. And so we have to walk away. It takes another 2 seconds. Oh, this one's a little bit longer of a walk. This one will take 3 seconds. And then we just recall right here for 8 seconds. So this adds up to 5, 8, 16 seconds. So it's a total of 16 seconds. Okay. And that's absolute, worst case scenario. So I'm just trying to give you as big of a cushion as possible. It would take 16 seconds to recall off of this. Okay. So that's 6:03 when I paused and I did that whole thing. So let's see. So at 6:19, you would have been on Fountain, and then you could start pathing to your top side. 6:19. So let's say it's from recall all the way to chickens. You could have gotten boots. I don't know if you would have. I think that you should have if you did base. So let's say that it took you you have a Q. Doesn't really help you though. So let's just say we'll just highball it. Say it took you 15 seconds to get back to lane. So from 6:03, it took you 21 seconds and no 31 seconds, and you would have been full HP hitting the Raptors. So at 6:34, you should be full HP hitting the Raptors. So we see the time here. It's actually 6:37 on the clock. So you could say like, but wait, what like if I recall, especially if my recall gets stopped and I have to walk further away, and then I go all the way back to base, and then I reset from base, wouldn't that be slower? And so you see now that it's actually not. You would have been 6:34 hitting the Raptors, and the absolute worst case scenario, and highballing your speed off of Fountain. because you should have gotten tier 1 boots if you did recall, because you don't have the gold for anything else meaningful. And so it actually took you 3 seconds longer to do what you did. And you would have been full HP, but you're missing like 300 HP right now. By the way, whenever we take a peek while we're clearing raptors, where's that peak? All right, this peak right here is actually pretty important. So what we see is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 casters and 3 melees. So you have 9 minions. This wave is going to shove. Now, it's pretty early in the game, and so Kayle doesn't have to crash this wave if Kayle doesn't want to. Kayle can kind of hold, although the wave will still move forward, and the next wave will probably lock somewhere around here, or collide somewhere around here, if I had to take a guess. So, maybe even a little bit further back. Who knows, right? But probably around like the first one. So, this means that Kayle, so number one, Kayle actually can't shove the wave into tower, I don't think. Based on the mana value. Again, I don't know what she's maxing, so there could be something else in that, but I think that you're supposed to max Q, and so it ramps the mana costs up. She's level 6, so I think that would cost like 80 or 90 mana or something like that, so she'd only be able to use it maybe like once, plus an E or something. I'm not exactly sure here, but in any case, it's kind of like Kayle shouldn't be looking to hard shove this wave because she has the security of a big minion wave, and so she can actually like soft shove this wave and then hard shove the next and crash that to tower because it'll be too big of a minion wave for like Gangplank to try to stop it or fight her. However, what this means is that Kayle's going to be kind of overextended because she's going to be low resource, so the minions are going to be right here when she's trying to get that hard shove on. So this peak actually means that what you can do as a jungler is clear this camp and then move up towards Krugs, and then you're going to kite those Krugs close to here. Or you can take the Raptors and then aggressively move into the top side jungle here and just start a camp, like Gromp or something. Judging by the game timer, I actually wouldn't expect their jungler to be top if he started red buff, which it looks like he did because it's about to spawn. So because you have that information that red buff is spawning, I wouldn't expect their jungler to be top right now. I'd kind of expect him to maybe be recalling or be coming off a fountain and going right here. But you can't really guarantee this. And so this is a really nice, clean opportunity for a match gank. It's not exactly a counter gank. Like in a counter gank, you're trying to... like they come into the lane and they try to get a kill. And then you counter that by trying to get a kill. A match gank is just like if they show up and then you just immediately show up. And so you say, nope, you can't do anything here. And then they say, okay. And so you walk away and they walk away. And this match gank is going to protect Kayle because Kayle will be potentially overextended, and Gangplank is a champion that excels at running people down. I don't know if his ult is up right now, but if he has ult and barrels, and then you're playing like with a real jungler that isn't fucking Braum jungle, then Kayle can potentially die when she tries to shove this next wave. And so if you move aggressively, it lets her kind of do that freely, knowing that the jungler can't actually get to her. But if you are being greedy and going for your Krugs, you need to kite those things as far close to the lane as you can so that she can get at least close to you. You know that Kayle can close some distance back to the tower with W and with ult. So she gets as far back to the tower as she can, and then by that point, you just abandon your camp if they show up and you just walk into the lane. And so you basically say, no, you guys are not allowed to actually dive this Kayle, which allows her to get a recall off, which is really nice. Okay, so we opt into the more aggressive path, which is moving into his jungle. I'm totally okay with that.
Hey, come back.
I think that, so that decision of whether you would go, greed for the farm or aggro into their jungle, I think that a part of that decision would be made by whether or not they can actually kill you, like in that isolated scenario. And so because you're playing against Braum can't really kill you. So it's totally okay to aggress here and move into this. Yeah, so Kale should be looking to crash this wave right now. We look to do the Gromp. That's exactly what I was talking about. This is nice. I'm kind of concerned that Vel'Koz is missing. Okay, he's back. So whenever you're doing this, you should be watching the lane state here on both lanes. Because number one, you want to know if Vel'Koz is getting a good enough shove to potentially come. And number two, you want to make sure that Kayla is actually shoving the minions as hard as she can be to crash them to tower because she wants to recall. Even if she doesn't know that she wants to recall, she wants to recall. There's nothing for her to do. And so continuing to look for wolves is okay, but only if you have the security that Kale did get all of the wave dead and the wave is going to shove into tower and Gangplank can't stop it. So this is good for Kale. And as long as Vel'Koz is staying in mid lane, then you can look for the wolves. It's very hard for you to die in that situation, even if Braum shows up. Or, you know, anybody shows up.
Come play with me.
We could kite those wolves better to the blue, like when there's only one left. If we're gonna like invade this blue, then we could kite the wolf to the blue. Braum doesn't notice that he takes some damage from Bammy Simber, actually. Wait, and then you greed. This is the hardest greed I've ever seen in my life. You straight up just feed that kale to the enemy team. You just say, oh, okay, well, I got mine.
Okay.
Just recall, man. Look. So you decide, oh, fuck my team, I'm not going to help them. You go back into the brush. Look at where Braum and Gangplank are right now on the map. Is there any way that they can get to you? No. And did they know that you were there? No. Because if they did, Vel'Koz would have came over here and Braum wouldn't have actually went up the top lane in the first place. They would have just killed you in the jungle. So just recall. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So at 7 seconds, Braum finally exits this vision, which means that he's right here. He's just on the edge of the vision at 7 seconds. 8. And then you would have been back to base right now. And Braum would have been resetting into his top jungle, of which there's nothing there. And so because there's nothing there and because he just ganked top, I really don't know if he wants to gank top again. So you have options here. The option that I probably like is a recall straight into red buff, because if he is going to do anything, like if he's going to try to get anything back out of the jungle, then he's probably going to see that his blue buff is gone, and so just look for your red. So if you can meet him at red and then take that, or prevent him from being there in the first place, then that's very good. And then you can just full clear into bottom. Because that's also the only place that Braum has to be right now. And we know this because we got his topside camps. So he can't be here. Can't be here. Can't be here. So the only place that he has to be is on the bottom side of the map. So again, when we're on the bottom side of the map, he's on the bottom side of the map. He's got more levels than he should right now, and so he could potentially be looking for a gank opportunity in bottom through some fashion or something. So us matching him on that side of the map is good for us. And it's also bad for him because anything he tries to do just fails automatically. Don't like the fact that you didn't recall here. I mean, I just don't think it's very good because now you don't have a lot of HP, but yeah, he could look to follow Flash. Looks like he did. Oh, that's fine. So that kind of played out how I anticipated. Braum sees that the blue buff is gone, and so he actually looks to invade you and see like what you're up to, because he knows that you can't have your red buff yet by the time that he shows up, and so this does end up working out for him. So if you had actually just sat in the brush and then recalled, he couldn't have cleared your red before you came back. So you would have met him at red, because we're still just acknowledging that he doesn't really want to do the Raptors. Plus, like, if he was at Raptors, he probably would have just ducked around the wall to see if the red buff was up, and then if it was, he would have started doing it. So we would have been able to meet him there with full resources. So that's a winning fight all day, every day. And he's out of line. He's not allowed to be there at that point. And so his team has to do something to bail him out, or he just dies. Instead, you end up having to burn your flash. You don't get your chickens, which is really bad for you. I mean, that sucks. Because of camp sequencing, like all of the stuff, you know? So I think that you ping the blue buff and then dragon. Not super sure. Could kite those wolves into our next camp, at least in the same direction. Just saves a couple seconds every time. Might as well. For this now, yeah, you want your camera to just be down there and just be spamming your E button. Look. You Q onto it. Okay. Now, you put your camera here, and then you just keep mashing your E button. Just keep mashing it. Because it's not a targeted ability. So if you even if you have your mouse on somebody else, like say you click Janna or something and you press E, Amumu's not going to walk to Janna and E. He E's in place. It doesn't override his movement commands or anything. He E's in place. So you just stand there and you mash E. Look, you're not using it. Wow, you got lucky. Okay, it's the easy dragon. After dragon, what do we look to do? Kind of just take a peek. I don't hate that. I don't hate looking for the mid gank either. I don't hate it. But Lux doesn't have the resources, so we can just stay and cover the wave. And Vel'Koz can't kill us, so we can just cover this. I don't know why Lux didn't take it back. I don't know why we're trying to fight. Okay. Okay, look. This is sort of this is maybe a little bit more advanced than just the standard decision making stuff that I like to talk about, but I think that this is kind of important just in terms of like this technically falls under micro. So we'll talk about it because this is a kill 100%. Like I think that it's bad to go for the kill in the first place. Lux should recall and you should just eat the wave and then you can go into your top side. But because this plays out in the way that it does, you might as well get the kill. Like it's bad to go for it in the first place, but this is, since you do go for it, you might as well get it. Otherwise, it's even worse that you made the decision to go for it. So Vel'Koz sees this laser, and so you have to think, this is sort of like layering. So you have to think about like, it's more than just what you're doing. It's also what he's doing, which is the second level, and the third level is like, what are your teammates doing? And so the fourth level is, how is my opponent going to react to what is happening, right? So Vel'Koz cannot juke this ult because it was placed actually pretty nicely. And so it pinches him like right into this spot. So the only way that Vel'Koz can dodge this ult is by stepping down. However, the only way that Vel'Koz lives is by going to his turret. There's no universe in which he's allowed to take a jaunt all the way around here and somehow live, because you're bleeding him every second with W. And you have the ability to stick on him. And you saw that he used E up here. Now, I don't know how big of a cooldown that is, but I think it's like 16 or 18 seconds or something like that. It's usually pretty standard to assume that those, like, from the long range mages, that their one, like, CC ability, it has about, like, 16 or 18 seconds, sometimes longer for some champions, you know. But in general, about then. So you know that you're going to get probably like 2 more Qs in before he can use E again. And so whenever your third Q comes up, you'll be thinking about that. Like, okay, I'll let him E, and then I'll hit him with Q afterwards. So that way I don't hit him with Q, and then he just knocks me back in the middle of the animation and then just walks away spamming laugh or something. But Vel'Koz can't actually continue this path. He's just sidestepping, and then he's going to return back to this thing because it's the only chance that he has to live. He's only got like 400 health, man. Okay, so there's the ult sidestep. And that's the direction of your Q. He can't go this way. Like, he can't go this way. It has to be this way. So in circumstances where it's like, so maybe even removing this specific scenario from the game so we can get back to the generals, because I don't really like focusing on specifics too much, and this is very specific. So let's generalize this out. You don't need to use Q off cooldown. The predominant use of Q is as a gap closer, and then later into the game it becomes like a setup for your ult whenever you have that available. But the setup still relies on the fact that it is a gap closer. And so, of all of the abilities on your kit, Q is the most important to hit, because without Q, you know, you're not always in range to W. Without Q, not always in range to E. You basically got to be in melee range. Without Q, your opponents can react better to your ultimate. So Q is one of those things that's really important to hold on to. It's almost like Morgana, in a sense. Like, Morgana's whole kit revolves around Q. And so if she has no Q, people don't really care about her. But when she has Q, people run away, right? Kind of same thing in this circumstance. So we don't need to focus on like, it just came off cooldown, and so I'm going to stun him so that I can get the kill like right here. What's the difference if you kind of just sit it out? Because if this Lux ult hits, if he doesn't sidestep and the Lux ult hits, I'm pretty sure he's just dead anyways, like from the ult damage. And even if he's not, I think like the next tick of your W would just kill him or something. Your next auto attack, man. Like, you don't need to think that hard about it if the Lux ult doesn't hit him. And so in a sense, like we talked about, the only chance he has is to sidestep out and then return to this like path back to his tower. So if you're not sure if he's going to commit around to the thing, like, we can save our Q for moments where the enemy can make a choice, because Vel'Koz could make a choice to take this path. Like, it's a choice that he would die from, but it's a choice. Or Vel'Koz could reverse that backstep and come on this path. And so, standing in this circumstance, we could actually just hold our Q and wait for him to commit to an option. Because what he's going to do if you don't try to CC him right here, like, say that you were Morgana and he juked the Lux ult by bouncing to this bar. At that point, he'd probably bounce to this bar, anticipating that you Q in this direction. Even still on Morgana, it would be the same exact thing. But if you don't Q, then he's going to walk a little bit, and then he's going to probably look to try to like juke back, you know? Like, because still, if he gets it to this spot and you Q him, he dies. Or even if he gets it to this spot and you Q him, he dies, right? So the only chance he has to live is by constantly like doing this back and forth, trying to make you miss. So what you can do is just acknowledge that you actually don't like it doesn't what he's doing doesn't matter, and he's basically just wasting time because he's dying anyways from W. So you don't need to make a play here. So he ends up living. Oh, he's gone. You don't keep going after him. He's gone.
Okay.
I want to see what we do with our next ult. That's kind of what that's where I'm going to stop this video. I want to see the next ult. So we're coming into top lane, but we know that Kale has no resources. So I obviously I'm not catching comms this game or whatever. I don't know what the call is here. But the only thing that I'm thinking in my head is that if you're pathing top at this moment in time, it's just to help Kale shove out the wave, because Gangplank can't hold the wave against both of you, obviously. And so you're just going to show, you're going to be a presence, Kale gets to shove the lane, and then she gets to take a reset. And that's the only thing that should be happening here. So if you are just coming to shove out the lane, it doesn't matter if they see you on a ward or something. In fact, it's better if they do, because then he's just going to play back and kind of scared, which allows you to go hit the wave, which is the thing you want to do. Instead, you actually go for this gank. So what can Kale contribute here? She can contribute 1 Q, maybe, or maybe like 2 E's at most. Gangplank is Grasp. If Gangplank, he also has Sheen. If GP can Q her twice, she dies, because one of those times would be a grass stack, I'm assuming. So Kale can't really do anything in this scenario. I don't think that you have the damage to kill him. He's got to level up on you. I don't even know why he flashes. He could have easily just taken that Q, W'd it right off, and then just walked away. I don't know if his W is on cooldown. It's impossible to know. But yeah, he could have just W'd and then just walked it off. Just recall after this, man. Just recall. You got 1,500 gold, man. Okay, Braum sees you on the scuttle. Going out towards top is your best option. We don't know what's happening with Vel'Koz. I guess Vel'Koz wasn't there. Vel'Koz was there. Obviously, I skipped ahead like a couple seconds. I'm not sure if you actually panned your camera to mid to see if she didn't have the HP to follow up, or if you were just guessing. Okay. I don't hate Rift. You would assume that they can't just like immediately path the Rift, so I'm kind of okay with that.
Destroyed a turret.
You did get the Rift. And so here's what I'm thinking with the Rift. The most important lane to Rift is mid. I think that Jinx just took bottom, like at this point in the game, and so what we're really looking for is mid lane, because it's pretty hard to, like, Vel'Koz clears waves pretty easily. Right, so it's kind of hard to get his tower. So if we can get a play on Vel'Koz, that would be really nice. Especially because bot lane just took their towers. They don't have an obligation to come bottom. So if they come mid with us and we can 4-man and just Rift and break that tower, that'd be really nice.
Where are we going?
See, that time you pull the red buff like out towards bottom, but you don't do that with the little camps. It's just important to do it with every camp. Every single camp, man. There are very few times where it just legitimately doesn't matter. An example of that would be like if it's the last camp in your path and you're gonna like recall. Like after you kill it and you just know that you're just gonna press B and recall in place, then it doesn't really matter to kite it. It's kind of unfortunate. Our team kind of tunneled on that. I feel like, yeah, we were definitely maybe a little bit out of position here. Yeah, like why go for the fruit? The fruit's pretty greedy. Fruit's pretty greedy. Also in this, we actually had a lot of time to respond to that Vel'Koz E. Look at where we are on this. We could have just went right upwards, you know? Like if you just backstep this up, I don't know how good your reaction time is, but if you just backstep this up and then just wait out that thing, then Vel'Koz never goes for the all-on here. Even after he does, there's an opportunity for you to do something. I'll show you where it is. Right here. The CC's worn off. So at this point, you have to recognize that you're dead anyways. Like if you go hit the blast plant and whatever, like Braum is just going to be able to chase you down with Q. Maybe he has smite. I don't know. Vel'Koz is going to have more abilities. So what you do in this case is just immediately Q onto them. This is a bad color. What you do is you Q onto them, and then you just spam R. Like Q, like specifically if you could hit the Vel'Koz, that would be nice to stop the ult just a little bit sooner. But as Q is flying, you should just be spamming R button. Because if you actually get it, then it cancels Vel'Koz ult, which means that you get to live for like at least like 1 second, you know? Because from where you are in the damage and then the amount of damage that you're going to take from the W pop and from another couple ult ticks and stuff, like it's not actually going to kill you from this amount of HP. You have Negatron, you have Cinderhulk, like you have some HP. You have 750 HP left. It's not going to one-shot you with 750 HP. So actually what it's going to do is it's going to allow you to live for a couple more seconds. Your team's not really looking to be in a position to help you. Obviously, they're kind of tunneling on what they're doing there. So it's not a matter of like living in this scenario. That's not the reason that you do this. The reason that you do this is to waste their time and make sure that these people can't actually get to the fight or rotate afterwards. That's the whole point of this. You do as much as you can to delay them to give your team space. If that makes sense. And so that's like, I firmly believe like that should be my third, that would be your third ult, and that's where I would stop the video. So they just reset. At this point, like I said, man, this game is kind of straightforward. You should have way more advantages, especially like go back again and relook. You know, whenever you watch this, watch that early section twice when I talk about how to win the game before 6 minutes. Watch it a couple times, like really understand what I'm talking about there. That's the most important thing. From here, your path into the game, your bottom lane has done the thing that I wanted them to do a minute or two ago, and they've finally made their way to mid. And you have Rift, so at this point you just walk mid with bottom lane with Lux, and then the 4 of you just pop Rift in mid. Vel'Koz doesn't clear, he backs away, you take this tower for free, and then in the meantime his team rotates, and so at that point you can defend Scuttle while it gets one more charge on, or Rift, whatever, you can defend that while it gets one more charge on there, and then potentially, just depending on like how you're feeling about things, like you have ult right now, so I think that you should have used it in that scenario, but because you didn't, it's up right now, and so it's an option for you to actually go under tower once that thing like charges, once Rift charges, and maybe somebody steps out of position, and maybe you can find like a nice Q onto them, or maybe you can find like a nice flash ult onto them, or something like that, and if Jinx can get a reset, off of the damage, either it be from the tower dying or from somebody dying, splash damage with rockets or anything like that. Because Lux is actually quite strong at this moment as well, and so if Jinx can get like a reset under the tower, then it's pretty easily going to be a couple kills and the tier 2, and from there the game's just over. So that's how you win this game in the end. Anyways, that's all I got for those.